Well, this lovely Ford has this big hole right here of missing things. We just had a delivery, so I came over to see what it is and have it pulled in. The customer ordered it. And I thought I was just going to slide her on in the shop, but it's a little more than forkliftable, I think. So, what do we have? Oh, yep, he did one of those. He did a complete running engine. He's got the shifter and that entire harness. I made the mistake of doing the same thing with the CUDA and realized that all the stuff that comes with it you can't use. But maybe we'll do the whole start it on the pallet just for the fun of that and see what it'll say. Well, let's get it in the shop at least so it's not out here. Doesn't come with a steering wheel. The last one I did, maybe the gauge cluster's in the box. The gauge cluster kind of fit up here. I think this is the same company. But anyways, there we go. Whole Mustang motor and everything. Let's get it in the shop and see all the fun it is when it's opened up. Well, there we have in the shop. My poor little tractor couldn't lift it up, but I could drag it and push it, so I pushed it all in. The little box, cardboard box, looks like it has fan and filter. Yep. So there's our filter. I highly doubt that's a factory thing, so it probably had like an aftermarket filter or something else. So there's that. Set that over here. What else is in this here box? We've got the belt. Okay. We've got the air cleaner tube. So the sucky air through. What else? More bubble wrap thingy. Aha, that is the gauge. We can unwrap that here in a second. And a thingy majigger with plug. I think that's the dash. I think that's dash buttons. Yeah, that looks like dash buttons. Oh, let's open that up. What else we got in here? Pull and key inside. All right. We do have our dash controller, radio, turn the knob up, play the tool, turn it up. Weep, 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 wop, wop. All right, we got down here, caution. All right, ooh, I feel like I'm driving a Mustang, pushing buttons. And then dash. So, should I had that kind of same palette? Matter of fact, my dash, where did I put it? For that, I put the display here. I actually have it wired so I can put a light on it because it lights up and it's kind of cool looking. But I never put it in the car because you can't use the instrument panel, because the instrument panel and computer is looking for the entire car and it's missing the entire car. So mass airflow sensor, all that kind of good stuff. So I might throw a little oil in it and start it just to hear it run to make sure it is a running thing on the pallet, just long enough to not burn the exhaust on the got aftermarket headers, which never a fan. Cool. Well, that's for the Ford. Kind of an interesting little shifter. Push button little guy there. It's plugged into the harness. Yeah, underneath that pallet is an entire wad of harness with tons of plugs and sensors and everything looking for the car, which doesn't exist. But you can put it together like it does, hit the key and the motor does run, and it will fire up for a few seconds. So that's basically what we will do. Well, look at that. It's an actual shifting transmission from off a shifter. That's a lot cooler versus like the digital shifter that's in that 8-speed automatic of the Chryslers and Mopars that I'm working on. Well, it's European or whatever. Gotta sweep some gravel. Throw this on some dollies. Maybe I'll move the pallet around so I can get it up on some dollies and things so I can at least get more room in my shop. Because I can't have this big thing floating in here for very long. I'd like to have it stuffed up in that engine at some point. With that motor in that engine bay. We'll see about power steering and all the stuff in the sides and how much room we have. Looks like it's got an aftermarket oil catch can. So the car had some aftermarket performance-y parts on it, which also means it's been ran hard. And I'm sure all the fluids are completely drained. It's kind of an interesting way the dipstick isn't there. Yeah, dipstick has got a little something on it, but not full by any means. At least it's not bone dry. Wonder what they have in the transmission. I've had these show up with oil in the transmission, and I've had others with the transmission bone dry. The cool part with having the dash, though, it will tell you how many miles are on it and exactly if it was to the car. So at least you're getting some accurate information on, you know, mileage and that type of thing. Notice how they set up the brake pedal and they put the board in and put it down so the brake is down so that it'll actually start, because the brake pedal needs to be pushed in for it to start. And then you can actually sit and rev it up on the pallet. The reason they send this, just realized, the start button. The start button isn't separate. It's all part of the plug, and it's part of this computer piece here that plugs into this harness, that plugs into all that stuff. So they just take that, stick the harness plug down there, center console for start button, and so that'll push into that, plug into that, so you can turn the key on, push the button, and it fires up. Okay. We're going to need a complete different harnesses and all that, but that is what we got. Now we can get a better look at it. So, motor, pallet. I'll talk to the customer, see if he wants me to put oil and stuff in it and fire it up just to hear it run. It is a little oily on top for some reason. I've got a pile of lumber. Probably have to sit for 30 minutes or so de-nailing a bunch of boards, and at least I got some scrap 2x4s to use out of it. Well, let's put some fuel in it and put some oil in it. I'll turn things around. Let's watch it fire up, see what the gauge is saying. What's that right there? Huh. Interesting. I just looked that up. That is a $1,400 intake manifold. So between that our little aftermarket filters, some gaskets, their oil catch can. Somebody was dumping some money into their Mustang before they totaled it and went to a junkyard and got scrapped out to sold to this guy. I have no idea what size injectors are in it or if they have different injectors in. I guess that's all researchy stuff we'll have to get into. Don't know if that's good or bad news. Now that it's unwrapped and I've got oil in it, bring my battery over and we can plug that in. We've popped the fuel pump out, and I can just dump some fuel right in on the pump so that we can get the supply in. You can see how they coil these up. So a running pallet comes with no oils in them or no liquids. Obviously there's no radiator, so we have no cooling, but you can fire them up and hear them yourself and hear them run and hear what you paid for. It's a little bit more money, or a lot of bit more money, to buy a complete pallet. It seems really cool because it comes with the gauges and the steering column, and like we said about the, the center console thing, but basically that's all because of that button and the plug that's on the back. You got your pedal and brake pedal, and then even it's not just a brake switch. There's a lot more going on with just the brakes for the computer. The shifter has a bunch going into the shifter, plus it's also, these transmissions are a cable, so it also shifts to the cable. I'm not sure if we're using that stick or how we would go about putting that into this, but pros and cons of what we have here. The pro is we can fire it up. We can hear it, we can see what it does, condition of engine, things of that direction. We can see how many miles are on it. We obviously know somebody, between that ported intake and a few of the other goodies and the stainless headers, they had some performance mods on. No idea what kind of injectors or anything in it. I find it funny that somebody has purposely scratched off the type of oil that the manufacturer recommends for it. So they either think they know more than the manufacturer, or because of the mods that he put in it, he's running a special oil. Down here, you can see some swirly marks where probably when it got in its accident, something came up into here, hit this, spun this out while it was running. You can see some oil and leaking probably from the valve covers or heads down onto what the original engine was. So it's been pressure washed and cleaned. So the engine looks really clean on the pallet, but how clean was it in the car? You really don't know. Just has the benefit of, like I said, firing it up so we can hear it. It does have the oil cooler. The other not problem of, well, we can go for some of that other things that goes in the car, but let's fire it. Let's hear it run. And yeah, let's put some juice in it. So I'm going to get my fuel can, which is somewhere in the shop. Do you see it? Do you see it? Well, let me find the fuel can. Oh, okay, I'm an idiot. It was right there. I was standing by it, looking around for it. It was right by my feet. That was dumb. I should almost back out and change the video and start over, but it's really not my theme. My videos are just videoing and talking, and I don't edit, I just post. But I am going to pause it to put fuel in it because I need two hands. Of course, I had to spill a bunch of fuel over it, but got fuel in. Use the rag for my fingers. Let's open the garage door just a little bit. Okay, then we can take Mr. Positive, because he's always got good attitude. Good attitude goes there. Bad attitude, we'll just call this one Karen. Karen can go right there. And then I should be able to turn that on. Hey, lots of noise, lots of bumping. So it thinks the door is open, and gauges light up. So 70,900 miles. So 71,000 miles of some pretty hard running. If someone's going to put money into performance parts, they weren't afraid to take this pedal and push it to the floor all the time. So keys on. You have to have the fob. Our buttons there. So I didn't hear the fuel pump kick on, but I'll just give it and let her do it. It sounds really good. I gotta admit that. The valves sound amazing. It's looking for the car on every sensor it's got. So that is the coolest part of having it on the pallet to fire that thing off. So it sounds sick. It runs amazing. Your door's open. What do you mean your door is open? What door? What door? Oh, that door? The door's open. How does it know? God, technology. They're so smart to know that this door is open. All right, well, let's turn the ignition off. So that's the coolest part of getting a running pallet from certain places and get that. But honestly, and I've done the same thing. See previous videos, I bought the same setup for the CUDA, mainly because that motor and everything, I bought it years before I was going to get around to doing the system. So I liked having it, being able to fire it up and hear it for myself and know that it was running. I had a good running motor before I started. But there again, that motor, we now know has a leaking head gasket. It runs good, it sounds good, and I paid a lot of money for that running pallet, and I still have to pull the heads and pull the intake and pull everything off of it because the head gaskets are leaking and it's overheating. But that's a whole other subject. But that's the upside of that. I knew that I couldn't use a lot of the stuff that's there. What a lot of people don't know, which maybe this will show you, just because that runs, you can't put this in a car. You can't put all this in and drive your car. It's not going to work. It's going to constantly have problems. This is a variable timed motor, dual cam, thingy-majiggy, all that stuff. It's learning, it's working off the computers. Yes, it came with the computers, but this computer's also looking for the car. It's looking for wheel speed sensors. It's looking for outdoor temperatures and exhaust and things that you don't have. Can you make it work? Yeah, but it's a ton of work. All that wiring in there, everything from seat belts to the sensors in the seats if someone's sitting in the seats, the tail lights, headlights, things that it doesn't know it's not. It actually affects how and why it wants to run. So if you want to put it in this car, these cars had electric power steering. So if you need a power steering pump just for a rack and pinion power steering, it takes a whole different pulley assembly and a power steering pump that goes on the front of that motor. This AC compressor, what comes with AC? This AC compressor runs on the computer, is a modulating compressor that regulates, and everything from that heater box that's inside your controls and the little buttons for your temperature, that comes on and off differently than a traditional or old school AC, which is just on-off compressor. They just switch. So you need a different AC compressor to put this in a car that's not the car this came out of. You obviously can't use this steering column and things in an older vehicle, so that's not going to work, but it needs the plug and everything that it's wired into for it to know it's there. This gauge cluster has a computer inside it looking for other things in the car. So if you even got it to go in, and someone that knows way more than I do about computers could reflash and tune things, you're still going to have lights and problems with it not knowing stuff that's going on. Back to speed sensors and wheel sensors for your actual speed. This gauge cluster of stuff just for this button is this entire thing. There's a plug of like 15 wires plugged into the back of this just for the start. Probably 2 of them are just for the start button, so you could probably unpin, repin, play with some of that. Everything from, the brake switch is doing more than just turning on brake lights. This is telling the computer what gear it's in so you can start it where it's safe, where it's in right gear. The reason it also starts with this down, because the brake lights, the brake safety, because the pedal's down. If this would have been up here, it would not have started. So there's a lot of aftermarket stuff that has to be bought to put this into another vehicle, and cleanly. I got 60 pounds of wiring that was under that dash, and it takes up that entire area. You couldn't put all that wiring in that cab. It's just not even going to fit. Like, where do you put it? Even if you could make it work. You can use the engine harness of just the wires that are up in here. But there's going to be a lot of, you got to buy a different computer. There's a whole nother module that has to come along with stuff. If we go with a different shifter because of the truck or something that way, there's going to be things involved. Really cool this motor fires up though. I'm excited for it. We're going to strip it off this pallet because it's taking up a lot of room in my shop. I will take all that other stuff and just in the back storage for right now. And I'll just hang a cherry picker over this and get that just hung in there. And that's what that is. So pretty awesome that the 66 Ford is going to be getting a pretty badass Coyote motor. 71,000 miles on it. Not the worst, but that's higher mileage. And with the performance mods, that's higher mileage of hard running. But I don't think this truck, when it's done, is going to see a lot of mileage in a lot of time. So it should treat him really, really great. We'll get that wrapped up and done. And then I'm back on that, which we're going to have another video about the downside of engines. We have some real negative information coming out soon on another vehicle. But that was that. The Ford's moving one step closer. Hope everyone's doing wonderful. It's raining a little bit today, so it's just playing in the garage. I'm out.